about the role of tribal elders in our classrooms, with the opportunities that they represent, and if possible, to share an example from the rich oral traditions of Native people here in America. So, Carrie, please, thank you. By the way, I'd ask that we welcome her. It's a long drive.
Thank you. Sheikh Pachwai. I'm glad that you have chosen to be here to have a different kind of experience. But we share the challenge. Within our community, before we had English and before we were forced to go to non-Indian schools, we also had children to teach. And we have the same challenge. And that was respect of the land, respect for the animal kingdom, all phases of animal kingdom. And one of the methods that we had for helping them to remember the consequences of when we did something really great or when we didn't do something as well as it could have been done because of non-cooperation. What we did was we have what is called a time ball. And this is one of the exercises that I heard as a child in the longhouses, where we gathered, families gathered and stayed together. And what they would do is they started like my time ball starts. This is long before I was born. This is when we were placed along the Snake River by the Creator. We were placed there and we were told to be stewards over the land. And that we were to live in harmony with the animals, and we were to live in harmony with the water, the wind, all of that. We had to have respect for everything. And so you go through, and we come to the time when we actually made contact with the first light-skinned people. Now that's how we said it. We didn't say Hudson Bay, we didn't say the French, we didn't say the Dutch. We said light-skinned people. That's when we started the contact with them. Then the next thing that happened was when Lewis and Clark actually came to the Palouse village. And what Lewis and Clark were not really privy to politically was the fact that the Snake River Palouse were already trading with the Europeans and had been long before Lewis and Clark decided to make the journey. We had been trading with them. So we had already been told that Lewis and Clark were coming, and so we looked, because we were business people. The Snake River is the crossing point for the Indians coming from the south, the Indians coming from the north, and then we had the coastal people coming like this. And so we virtually had a trading post along the Snake River where our family is from, and it's called Wawikma. That was the name of our homeland. And so we actually were established, so we got ready for Lewis and Clark. We were the only group of Native Americans on the West Coast journey. There were over 200 men ready to meet them. And they were afraid of the fact that there were 200 men, because most of the villages that they had gone through, mostly they found old people and children. And so that's the kind of stuff we would put on our time ball to share with our children. And then, of course, we created all of the curiosity. You mean there were people that had no color? Yes, there are people that aren't brown. And that do burn when they get too much sun, they get red, you know. And of course it's a curiosity. You know, and then they speak a different language. Well, how did you guys talk? Well, we used our hands and we pointed to things. We did all of those type of things. And then eventually, of course, we had Sacagawea, who had been given in marriage and moved off. And a lot of our people, we had already done that. Many of the chiefs within our society, marriages were prearranged, and mostly what happened is they would come, and we had a reputation for raising women of wisdom, women who were marvelous planners. I am talking marvelous planners. And so we had men from all the different areas come to our area to look for a wife. She was not only a virgin, but she had all of these skills. Then the other thing that she had as resources were not only access, she came with access to where we had relatives amongst the Coeur d'Alene, we had relatives amongst the Nez Perce, we had relatives among the Corps, because we had already traded our daughters and our sons to be married into these communities. So we actually had trade routes that were established through the setting of marriages. And that's one thing that is not commonly known and commonly put in your books. But this is, and we, unfortunately, we don't do that today. We can't control our kids. I can't control mine. To where I can tell them, you're going to marry so-and-so because I need a trade route. You know, that isn't done anymore. They just say, buy a ticket, Mom. And then what we did was, then we would go for, like the white bead represents every year, and then the red bead has significance for every event in my life. And when I was actually, one of the highlights of our life regarding education. Now you have to plant seeds. Planting seeds is very important. And one of the things that my mother's great-grandfather did to ensure harmony, because we had been told that non-Indians were going to come like locusts, that we were not going to be able to stop them, so we were going to have to learn how to live in harmony with them. And my grandfather, who was a prophet, a spiritual prophet, gained a vision. He had been given a vision that this is what was going to happen, that eventually, through the coming of these light-skinned people, that we were going to live in boxes, which are the current houses today, and that we were going to actually cook on stoves that had fire but no flames, which was the electric stove. So we were told this, and so my mother's great-grandfather decided, like I said, because we had already been trading with the Dutch, the English, and the French from Canada, he had already decided we have to know how to speak their language. He had a younger brother. This younger brother was Estamalut. The chief's name was Chawawatiak. So he took Estamalut, and he went and he entrusted them to Christian missionaries. They brought him back east, and he was educated here. Then he went